Hello there. Hundreds of thousands of Britons are walking down their jobs and striking for better wages, for pensions, and of course, job conditions. Despite the consequences of the pandemic and inflation, the governing Conservatives remain firm and are demanding an end to the strikes. However, that is not in sight, and other professional groups will follow. 500,000 workers have gone on strike in the UK on Wednesday. From late morning, thousands of teachers gathered for a protest march in central London, carrying signs reading "Save Our Schools." Thousands of schools across the country remained closed. Train drivers and border guards at airports and seaports also stopped working. The British trade union Confederation TUC spoke of the biggest day of strikes since 2011. The workload is always higher and higher, and with inflation, our salary is lower and lower. That was said by 57-year-old teacher Nigel Adams in the British capital. We are exhausted. We pay the price, and so do the children, he said. On their way, passers-by applauded the strikers. Drivers and bus drivers honked their horns to show their support. And the crowd marched towards Parliament and finally stopped in front of the Prime Minister's office at Downing Street. Very fitting here. Several parent associations have also declared that they support the movement. The demonstrators lament the sharp increase in the cost of living. And above all, in all sectors, they demand an adjustment of salaries to inflation, which has exceeded 10% for months, not to talk about the more than 16% inflation on food. At the same time, the strikes are protesting poor working conditions, low pensions, and government plans to restrict the right to strike in the country. We are on strike because we've effectively had pay cuts for the past 10 years. That was said by a union representative and Labour broker, Graham. Even though they work, some of our members have to attend food banks. In the past few months, strikes by tens of thousands of workers have already taken place in Great Britain, including in the care sector and in the post offices. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has called for affordable wage increases. He warned that large wage increases jeopardize efforts to fight inflation. Unions, on the other hand, accused the millionaire Sunak of being unrelated to the challenges ordinary workers face in precarious work with low pay and skyrocketing prices. A train driver named Tony said the raises being offered were insulting, especially in the wake of the pandemic. We've worked through COVID. We were praised as essential workers, and then there is this slap in the face, he said. And Kate Lewis, waiting for her delayed train at King's Cross Station in London, said she sympathized with the strikers. We are all in the same boat, all affected by inflation, she said. The Conservative government and business leaders remain firm, as I said. Education Secretary Gillian Keegan told Times Radio she was disappointed by the teachers' walkout. Prime Minister Sunak told Parliament the government had given teachers the biggest pay rise in 30 years, including 9% for entry-level teachers. He called on Labour opposition leader Keir Starmer to say the strikes are wrong and we should support our school children. Union leader Mark Serwotka described the government position as unsustainable on Sky News television. There is no end in sight to the strikes. Next week, we will have the paramedics and we will have the nurses. Then it will be the turn of the firefighters, said Serwotka. He warned that the unions were ready to strike through the summer as well. The strike movement in Great Britain has been going on since last spring. And according to the most recent figures from the Statistics Office, Great Britain lost 1.6 million working days due to the strikes in the period from June to November 2022 alone. And what I told you about Sunak and what he said in Parliament and what the Education Secretary said, That is exactly what I mentioned in an earlier video about their tactics, how they want to turn the people against the strikers. But that's why I brought some of the examples here in the video. The people are not turning on the strikers. They know who the perpetrators are. The people will support the strikers, and the people will not see labor turning against the strikers. Not because they are that closely linked to the unions, as the government always tries to blame them. No, the government is clearly on the wrong side here, especially because they are the reason everything is as bad as it is. All those at the helm are people that were pro-Brexit, with a few exceptions, but they're now blowing into the same horn as the others because they won't have their post. So they are pro-Brexit, so they are majorly responsible for the situation now, because with Britain holding the red lamp in the G7, and as the IMF said, it is the government's fault that it is that bad. Other countries in Europe, or the other G7 countries, are doing much better. And it's not only the G7, they're even doing worse than Russia. And half of this fracking planet has put sanctions on them. And the British are still doing worse. And they are still not starting to think. But you know, they will never learn as long as they are in charge. We will see what happens to the Tory government once they are out of government, the Tory party once they're out of government. But at the moment, we will not see changes there. And one little word, I mean, you probably have seen today what I'm wearing. I really love that they have those jackets again. I want to have them for a very long time from the merch shop. You see my new logo is on it already. And now they finally have them again. That's why I immediately wanted to wear it here when I got my sample. You can't see a shop at the moment under the video. That's another thing with the hackers. Since the hackers struck the thing, I put all the shop stuff in again, but none of my merch is showing there. And so if anybody is interested in merch, there is a link in the video description all the time where you can get to my merch shop directly instead of going there via the YouTube shop, because nothing is shown in the YouTube shop. I'm still investigating why not, but none of my merch is showing there, although the shop is linked. But probably has something to do with a hacker attack as well, and I hope I can figure that out. But anyway, if you're interested in some stuff of it, have a direct look at my merch shop. There is some nice stuff again, and I thought it was a new year, was time for a new beginning after last year. And if anybody still doesn't understand the new logo, just ask me in the comments, because remember the name of the channel, look at the logo, and you probably get it. But if you don't, just ask. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.